On July 10th, Russian troops crossed the border with NATO countries. The first blow fell on the Baltic states. Despite extensive training and fortifications, the local forces were unable to contain the onslaught and were defeated at the border. In Poland, the offensive slowed down due to the well-trained army. At that moment, the governments of different countries began to leave their states en masse. Realizing that they would not be able to withstand two powerful opponents, they left their citizens and headed for Israel, and then continued on their way to the eastern part of the United States. The situation has become more complicated. The western part of the United States has rebelled against the authorities. The government cannot suppress the riots because the center of the country is controlled by robots that are stationed in the central states and block land routes. The main actors were migrants who seized government buildings and founded a new state, the American States of the West. Their task now is to capture Alaska and prevent the government from controlling the Panama Canal. The world is changing rapidly. The stability that the American regime tried to maintain by destroying enemies and using Europe as a puppet has disappeared. Now countries are striving to take new positions and maintain influence. This is especially noticeable in Eurasia, while the situation remains stable in Africa. The Middle East and Africa remain stable regions that do not seek to dominate their zones. In the Middle East, the Arabs are focused on destroying robots in the UAE. A serious crisis has begun in Africa due to food and water shortages. Major players have reduced trade in this region for various reasons. If the situation does not change, Africa may face collapse in the next 2 or 3 years. White citizens from Europe and other countries face serious difficulties. The African people did not accept them because of historical grievances. White people have become a target for criminal gangs. The second problem is food shortages and poor sanitation. Due to political sentiments, many cannot leave for America or Asia. The Russian army has successfully completed almost all operations. Diplomatic pressure on the countries of the Balkan region made it possible to seize their territories without using force. The unexpected strike from Russia took the entire NATO alliance by surprise. The Scandinavian states refused to participate in the conflict with Russia. The Balkan countries, thanks to Russia, have emerged from the war on robots and are now solving their internal problems. NATO's commitment to Article 5 was only an illusion, allowing them to act without fear and commit crimes against peaceful countries. The Serbian people thank Russia for defeating NATO and for taking revenge for the bombing of Yugoslavia in 1999. NATO members are trying to keep the alliance from disintegrating. Britain is the only country that has openly opposed Russia and sent troops to Poland to protect it. The situation in Poland was reminiscent of the miracle on the Vistula. The location of the sides and the development of events indicated a repetition of the scenario, but with one important difference. Russia is much stronger and more experienced than the Soviet Union in 1920. The experience of the special military operation in Ukraine, which began in 2022 and ended by 2030, also played a role. The robots, which for unknown reasons did not break through the polished defenses at the border, prevent the country from deploying troops to strengthen the capital. Despite their passive actions, the robots tried to enter Hungary and Slovakia. However, the Russian army, using a rich arsenal of drones and missiles obtained from Ukrainian warehouses and its own factories, successfully stopped their offensive and drove them out. The robots did not make new attempts, but captured Central Europe. The whole world reacted with caution to the news of the collapse of NATO, despite the weakening of economic giants such as China and the United States. Russia is not able to meet the global needs for technology and food. Although the country is strong in the military industry, it lags far behind in the civilian sphere. The suspension of trade between Russia and China has led to an economic crisis. Many countries have begun to actively exploit the current situation. Iran, a longtime opponent of NATO, can now freely support revolutions in the Arab world and shape a new order under its influence. The United States, although it continues to participate in events in the Middle East, has focused its efforts on domestic issues, including the fight against robots on its territory. The DPRK, also known as the Kim Dynasty, may try to bring South Korea back into its fold. After the news of the collapse of NATO, North Korea began to actively pull troops to the border, violating the buffer zone. Japan, aware of the possible consequences, is providing partial assistance. However, South Korea and Japan face the problem of the elderly population. No one is ready to send young people to the front lines, because in both countries the proportion of elderly people is about 55%. The Turkish Empire is expanding its influence in the Arab world and is preparing to invade the remaining European territories. The current Turkish population is ambitious to return the Ottoman Empire to its historical borders. Religion continued to gain strength despite all the events. The Catholic Church lost its influence, and people began to turn to Orthodoxy. Under the influence of Moscow, the Orthodox Church began to fight against Muslims throughout Europe. On September 15th, the Russian army launched a major operation to cross the sea and capture the west bank of the Vistula River. Poland's defense is collapsing like a house of cards due to the low combat capability of the remaining troops. On October 15th, exactly 1 month after the start of the operation, Russian troops completely captured Poland. The Polish army was not ready for the new strategy and tactics used by the Russian leadership. Many deputies and the government tried to escape, but they were quickly detained. The entire Polish leadership has been arrested, and now they face trial in Moscow for Russophobia. The new leadership arrived from Moscow to stabilize the situation in the country. Germany, realizing that it was surrounded by enemies, made a deal and voluntarily joined the NATO. The previous government was dissolved and its leaders resigned. They were replaced by new faces from Russia. Eastern Europe came under Russian control in less than 6 months of fierce fighting. Losses on both sides reached hundreds of thousands of dead and wounded. Although the war was quick, it became one of the most sparing in terms of the number of victims in the history of major conflicts. The remaining residents greeted the invaders warily. Many people remember how the authorities and public bloggers behaved on the internet, and they are afraid of the consequences. Rallies took place in the country, but were few in number. People understand that their homes are being protected by one of the most powerful and experienced armies in the world.
In the future, According to the Russian government, the inhabitants of Eastern Europe will be key to liberating Europe from robots. In the meantime, the nuclear shield protects us from their invasion. Robots, although hostile to humans, understand the risks and consequences of their destruction and do not dare to attack a major power.